Even at his size, Gervonta Tank Davis continues to shock people with his power. During a recent sparring session, Tank reportedly dropped a heavyweight fighter with one clean punch. Witnesses said the bigger man was left hanging on the ropes, stunned and unable to continue. The footage, though unseen by the public, has already become a major talking point online. Fans say it's proof that Davis's speed, timing, and power are on another level, even against men who are much bigger than him.
I was about to spar. Before I was about to spar Tank, he was sparring this big boy.
A heavyweight?
Heavyweight boy. And Tank hit that nigga. He hit him so hard that he was on the top of the rope just like this.
To keep the speed, Gervonta Tank Davis, if he put on the right weight, put the right weight on, and have the lean muscle right, he can look fantastic somewhere in the mid 150s, dare I say, close to 160 against Jake.
It shows why he's still one of the most dangerous fighters in the sport. Boxing analyst Showbiz, the adult, believes Tank could enter the Jake Paul fight at around 154 pounds, maybe even close to 160. He says Tank's body can handle it because he's trained before at that weight and sparred with much larger opponents. According to Showbiz, Davis's explosive power and sharp counterpunching will make him dangerous, no matter how big Jake Paul is.
50s, dare I say, close to 160 against Jake Paul. And dare I say it, I think that's the right thing for him to do. Why? I've been saying this. Number one, fighters need to start fighting closer to their walk-around weight. They're just healthier that way. They're just better and healthier that way. I mean, I know it's probably surprising them too. Like, that was the best I've seen Terrence Bud Crawford. Lamont Roach, he's fighting Pitbull at 140, coming from 130 and a pit stop at 135. You have Shakur Stevenson talking about fighting Teofimo Lopez. They're very close to making that fight at 140. And I think all of them would look their best there, especially Roach, where he ain't knocking nobody out down there at 130. But I bet you he'll be swatting far more at 140. Gervonta Tank Davis, I think, just like the others, fighting closer to your walk-around weight is just going to be one of the better performances for Gervonta Tank Davis. He's going to learn a lot about his body. He's going to learn a lot about himself and where he should campaign moving forward. Maybe even meeting Roach in that rematch at 140 himself. Also, another reason why I think it behooves him to come in knocking at 160 pounds is because of Jake Paul. It's not like Tank is going to dodge every punch Jake Paul throws, all right? Some of those going to land, and more than likely it's going to land on his guard. Tank is going to have his guard up. We need for him to be solid enough, his foundation and his base solid enough, so when Jake Paul hits him with those shots, he doesn't go flying around the room.
Jake's size won't save him when Tank lands clean, he says confidently. Showbiz also argues that Tank fighting near his natural walk-around weight will make him healthier and sharper. Many top fighters are now doing the same thing, moving closer to their true weight instead of cutting down too much. He believes this fight will teach Davis a lot about his body and his limits. In the latest clips from training camp, Tank looks faster, leaner, and more focused than ever. His punches snap with precision, his footwork glides across the mat, and every strike looks carefully planned.
Is happening. WBA lightweight champion Gervonta Davis, who's unbeaten in 31 professional contests, takes on the self-proclaimed problem child Jake Paul, one of the most influential and marketable global personalities. Paul and Davis square off in Miami after doubts around the fight being sanctioned in Georgia triggered a change in venue. Neither fighter can weigh more than 195 pounds. The weight is perhaps the most surprising factor. Paul has boxed most of his career around 200 pounds, the cruiserweight limit, but did tip the scales at 227 pounds when he faced off against Iron Mike Tyson last year. Davis, much smaller in stature, competes at the 135 pound mark and has also won world honours at super featherweight.
And despite some discussions about possibly dropping down to 10 ounces, the pair seem set to wear 12-ounce gloves.
And in terms of distance, despite the exhibition tag, the fight will play out over 10 3-minute rounds with 3 scoring judges at ringside, but the result will not be officially recorded on their professional.
Observers say it's the best shape he's been in for years. But the big question remains, can Tank handle Jake Paul's size? Jake has fought near 200 pounds for most of his career and even weighed 227 during his exhibition with Mike Tyson. In contrast, Tank usually fights at 135. For this bout, both men must stay under 195 pounds, and they'll wear 12-ounce gloves across 10 3-minute rounds.
The question is direct. Reportedly, Tank's going to make $40 million around there to fight Jake Paul. Would you do the same thing if you were in this situation? And he's like, actually, this is what I explained before. You're beating around the bush. It's really a yes or no. I would do it. I would take the 40 mil, or I wouldn't take the 40 mil. But let's listen to this long, drawn-out explanation.
There's about $40 million that he's going to get paid. If you were in his shoes, wouldn't you do the same thing?
See, now, this is something that I explain and express, and I hope everybody gets. That opportunity is an opportunity that you probably cannot pass up. But it's about how you handle it. It's about how you go about it. A lot of people don't know that he actually exercised his rights to the rematch, so that contractually binds us to a fight. You cannot breach that unless you do what you have to do to handle the business, to be like, okay, well, we mutually agree to let you move on and or swindle around and fight Jake Paul for this money. If you think I'm going to sit back by the wayside and sit there and be like, well, even though I'm contracted to fight this guy for this amount of money on this certain day, I'm just going to sit here and be cool with, oh, he might not ever fight me, and he's going to go fight and get paid and get this money, and I'm not supposed to get anything.
Going discussion in the boxing world about Gervonta Davis and Gervonta Davis, his resume, who he's going to fight, the competitors that he's going to fight. And every once in a while, something happens that proves that Gervonta Davis is the face of that. If he's not the face of boxing because people just don't want him to be that, man, he is real close to it, because other than Canelo Alvarez, and even consider Canelo Alvarez included, nobody in boxing has divisions circulating around him like Gervonta Davis does. And that was proved during this Lamont Roach versus Pitbull Cruz announcement for their pay-per-view. Just think about this. Gervonta Davis, they always say that Gervonta Davis has a poor resume, but yet Gervonta Davis, guys that fight Gervonta Davis, lose to Gervonta Davis, or get a draw to Gervonta Davis, can fight one another and make an anticipated pay-per-view between the two of them. Because that fight with Pitbull Cruz is a very, very popular fighter with Mexican fight fans. Lamont Roach got a lot of name exposure with black fight fans and Mexican fight fans and white fight fans, all with his draw that he got against Gervonta Davis. Now they believe that this is going to be able to be a profitable endeavor for a pay-per-view. Now, let me also tell you that Rolly Romero, who was somebody else that Gervonta Davis fought in the past, will be on a pay-per-view that's going to be successful, most likely, when he defends his.
Even though it's labeled an exhibition, 3 judges will score at ringside and fans will definitely treat it like a real fight. Outside the ring, drama continues. Lamont Roach, who once fought Davis, claims Tank avoided giving him a rematch. Analysts say Roach's comments sound more jealous than angry, frustrated at Davis's fame and $40 million payday against Jake Paul. Many believe jealousy runs deep when money enters boxing. Still, Tank's supporters, including boxer Stephen Fulton, defend him.
Body in that position would have taken that fight, especially with the payout. It's like that's a no-brainer. But I understand. I still feel for Lamont. That's my boy. Like he still want his rematch. But then when you be realistic about the money situation, you're changing your whole family life. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's people hate on it because they're not in that position. I'm not saying Lamont. I'm speaking like other boxers. Be like, oh, he this for that. He's this. It's a side quest. It's a little side quest. Because what happened when Floyd and all these guys went on WWE, but then they get right back to what they're doing? You know what I'm saying? So it's just like it's another little side quest. I'm all for people just getting their money. So get the best, make the most that you can out of this entertainment world. Because I mean, I don't know. I would have done it as far as the money aspect, because none of us would deny that money. They talking like they would, none of us.
So in that sense, it's a little bit different. It's not different in the sense of a boxer in his prime or relative prime straying off the path, but this one is not. It's not like someone else, in a similar weight. It's like completely the opposite, and so that makes it, I think, look and feel weird. And then on top of it, obviously, Gervonta's got other business to handle. He looked to me, Gervonta, absolutely, completely disinterested. Even at the beginning of this year, and dude, even at the pre-fight Lamont Roach stuff, Tank was talking about how much time he has left in boxing, and he was wasn't much. I mean, the Lamont Roach fight, I mean, it blew up in his face, but Lamont Roach was cherry picked. I think Tank thought, oh, I'll just fight another guy from, the mid-Atlantic area who's, remember Roach came up from 30 to 35 to fight him. And Tank thought he was just going to cruise. And then it blew up in his face, and, you're left with that. So, you're making a point about, oh, he's got this obligation. That's true. But he was already fucking around. He was already taking opponents that, again, I think Roach showed everyone that was a mistake, but put yourself in Tank's mind. Tank was taking a fight against someone he was clearly, in his mind anyway, better than, and was just going to cruise. So he was already in that state. Then you marry that with statements like, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing this, and blah, blah, blah. And, I'm worried about going to therapy because it'll take away my competitive.
Fulton says every fighter has the right to secure their future. Tank has already earned his legacy, he explains. Now it's time to protect his future. He adds that any boxer would take that kind of money. It's a chance to change their family's life forever. Some commentators like Luke Thomas noticed that Tank seems calmer than usual. He believes Davis might see this fight as more of a business move than a personal challenge. But even a relaxed Tank, he says, is still dangerous. His power and skill are enough to end things quickly.
In this particular in the press conference, and you can just look at him and tell, no, this dude he's gonna get this money for sure, because there's so much money out there to be had. But Jake Paul better be not playing around, man. Not get cute, not play any games. Don't hit him in the back of the head. Don't rabbit punch him. Don't do any of that stuff, man, because Mike Tyson. First of all, Mike Tyson, a lot of people think Mike Tyson was pulling punches on Jake Paul, and a lot of people think that Anderson Silva was pulling punches on him too. You're not going to have a little Gervonta out there pulling punches on you, man, if you're out there playing games. So, I don't like the fight at all. However, as far as it being an entertaining situation, I almost guarantee you that fight itself is going to be entertaining. That it's going to be something that you look at and you're going to say, man, everybody's going to watch it. Everybody's going to want to know what happens in it. But at the same time, it's kind of like what people think, when you see a car crash, like you're driving down the road and all of a sudden the traffic gets heavy and you're like, man, I'm going to be in traffic for a long time. And then you drive forward a little bit and then you see, oh man, this is some accident on the other side of the road and everybody just slowing down to watch. That's the type of entertainment that you can expect from this fight between Gervonta Davis and Jake Paul. There's going to be a lot of people watching it, but I got to say, man, you really can't blame the guy on what he's doing. And there's a lot of criticism flying on Gervonta Davis. It's not Gervonta Davis's fault that boxing took this and Jake Paul fight. And what he said was, look, man, do not pick against Jake Paul, because he didn't believe that any of the fights that Jake Paul have had to date really have been a real thing. And that the boxing world is looking for that great WHITE hype. And Jake Paul is going to be that guy, even though he really can't do it in a real boxing match. So he was basically reflecting and saying that the saying where they say, believe a half of what you hear, half of what you see, and none of what you hear. He adjusted it to say, don't believe anything you hear and anything you say, anything that you hear and anything that you see. And honestly, man, when it comes to internet boxing, YouTube boxing, and what people say is going on in the media, without a doubt, I think Charleston White is 100% right about that. Don't believe anything you hear. Don't believe anything you see. Wait to see how things play out, and ultimately everything will come out in the wash. Well, going into this fight with Gervonta Davis, I had my concerns about the fight because of the same type of reasoning that Charleston White used, except for mine is slightly different. I don't think that either one of these guys are going to try to do too much damage to each other. Number one, because if it's scripted, which more than likely to an extent it will be, Gervonta Davis is not going to put himself in a situation where Jake Paul is going to actually be able to hurt him.
Others, like Charleston White, say this fight will finally expose the difference between a real boxer and a social media fighter. Jake Paul's fame can't replace experience, White said. Once he steps in with Tank, he'll learn what real boxing feels like. In the end, the world will be watching. Whether it's for the spectacle, the money, or the fight itself, everyone wants to see what happens when Gervonta Tank Davis meets Jake Paul in Miami. Will the YouTuber shock the boxing world again, or will Tank prove that skill, timing, and power still rule the sport?